NFL playoffs, division weekend, the best weekend of football of the entire season. Our opinion, I know a lot of people think the same way. These Lions are looking great. They host the Commanders. Let's look at our NFC matchups first. We got the Commanders at the Lions Saturday at 8 o'clock on Fox. And then the Sunday game is going to be the Rams with that great victory over the Vikings, having to go to play in frigid Philly against the Eagles in that dominant running attack. That's Sunday, 3 p.m. That's going to be on NBC. See if there's going to be a doink in this game. And then for the AFC games, we got the Texans at the Chiefs. It's going to start off the weekend Saturday at 4:30. And then the best game of the weekend, in our opinion, we think you probably agree, Ravens at the Bills, Sunday, 6:30 on CBS. Let's first take a look at the Detroit Lions and their game against the Commanders. We're really enthralled by that balanced offense. You look at their offense, and you tend to think they're passing only. They put up 266 passing, but look at those rushing yards. Up there on the tops of the league, 144, very balanced. Can the Commanders stop that? And when we look at the Commanders, we're going to apply a divisional playoff rule. It's a rule we use all the time, especially in the playoffs. Go against a team coming off a lucky win. Now, Commanders fans, you may not like this. We've been high on Jayden Daniels all year, but you have to look at that game against the Buccaneers. That was a lucky win. We see the play here where Baker turned the ball over, unforced error, just hit his own man, boom. And then the field goal doinked in. If you remember, the game-winning field goal barely went in. Another factor you look at when looking at an underdog, go against a team coming on back-to-back road games, which most teams are going on the road for the divisional, but Washington had to play 2 in a row on the road. That's tough. So looking at this game, we really like the Lions here, 35-21 over the Commanders. And when we look at best bets, take a look at that line. We see it creeping up towards 9 or 10. We don't want it that high, so if it gets that high, we like the teaser. Get that number down to 2, under that 3. And if it does drop a little bit, get the Lions -8. And for our second NFC matchup, you have the Rams facing the Eagles in what should be very cold conditions. Not good for an indoor team. Having grown up a fan of the Houston Oilers and Texans, we know what dome teams can do in the cold elements. That's not much. If you look at the earlier matchup, they faced off in Week 12. The Eagles controlled that game with a 37-20 victory. Even in the first half, really the second half was all Eagles. Curious to see if that repeats here. And this was Saquon running wild in that game, like we said in the second half, really turned it up. And the Rams, of course, with that passing offense, Nakua, Cooper Kupp, they've got a multitude of receiving threats. They can, as good as the Eagles' pass defense is, they can spread the ball around. And then, of course, they've got that Super Bowl champion pedigree. And for the Rams, it really starts with coaching. Sean McVay's offensive schemes are really innovative. And you're curious to see what he can do against Vic Fangio, who has come in as the Eagles' defensive coordinator, along with 2 great rookie cornerbacks, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and turn that defense completely around. And we think they're going to be able to slow down the Rams offense and combine that with the ball control offense with Saquon. I think that's the key matchup here. The Rams pass offense, 221 yards per game, as we're showing here, against the Eagles pass defense, and they only allow 176 passing yards per game. We think that's a difference. They should be able to slow down the Rams offense again. We mentioned the weather. That's definitely a factor, especially when you're a passing team, a passing dome team. Having to go play outdoors on grass and cold weather has always been an advantage for the home team. Again, trust us, we live in South Florida, follow the Oilers and Texans, we know how that works out. It's going to apply here. Our score prediction for this game, Eagles by 7. I think it could be a little bit more than that. We think the Eagles should have this one from start to finish. A best bet for this one we see the line as low as 5.5. Get that to stay under the 6-point spread, which typically is okay if you stay under 7. We've seen a lot of 6-point margins this year. We want to stay below that. And for totals, we don't think the Rams are going to score much. We like that under 44. And now to the AFC, where the Texans face the Chiefs in a rematch of an earlier game in which the Texans played rather well despite the 27-19 final score. This play should have tied the game up, a Tank Dell touchdown. They lost Tank Dell, their second best receiver, and C.J. Stroud's best friend. Lost him for the season. He would be a big contributor in this playoff run. But they played really well. If you go back and watch that game, a couple key plays went against them. We call them Kansas City calls. We're a little bit biased. We are Texans fans here. But when we look at the Texans also, the 10-7 record's one thing. Top 5 defense. If you saw the playoff game against the Chargers, don't overreact to one game. But Derek Stingley's been doing that all season long. He's been playing phenomenally and really first-team All-Pro, really impressive. And then on offense, Pro Bowlers Joe Mixon, running back, Nico Collins, wide receiver, and offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil. The weakness they've had this year has really been C.J. Stroud having a bit of a sophomore slump and really the overall offensive line not playing that great. But for a score projection, again, when we talked about cold weather, indoor teams, Texans are an indoor team. Chiefs just have that postseason magic we all know. We like them 27-17. And for player props, we're going to say both Mahomes and C.J. Stroud get that 1+ interception. We think defense is going to really rule this game. So look at that. And then overall best bets, of course, you can't ignore the Chiefs. Try to get that number under 7 if you can, -6.5, and then tease that down to get that under the 3. And now the main event for the weekend, the Ravens at the Bills. These two teams play each other so well, and the playoff history has actually favored the Bills. Regular season, such as earlier this season when the Ravens ran all over the Bills for a 35-10 home victory. But of course, success in the regular season doesn't mean much, and we know Lamar has struggled in the postseason. We look at this game as maybe the balance that Derrick Henry provides is shown here in these stats. The Ravens offense, their rushing offense, you probably expect them to be the best in the NFL. They exactly are. 185 yards per game, but really the key there, 5.7 yards per rush. How do you stop that? Number 1 in the NFL. But some numbers that surprised us when we looked at these. Flipping over to look at the passing offense, you think of the Ravens as predominantly a running team, right? Passing offense, the statistics here, 238 yards per game. That's not top 5, but 9.0 per attempt. That's best in the league. That tells you how efficient a passing offense really is. They don't have to throw it 40, 50 times a game to get 238 yards. They're that efficient. On the flip side, we think the Bills might have an advantage with their passing offense. They put up 234 per game through the air and then 7.8 yards per attempt. That's way below the 9.0 that the Ravens put out, but it's still pretty darn good. And then the Ravens on their pass defense. Now, these statistics are full season stats. They allow 248 per game. That's not that great. And then the yards per attempt, 7.3. Not horrible, but not good either. We will state that the statistics have gotten a lot better since Week 11. They made a few adjustments, but those numbers are troubling if you're a Ravens fan. Now let's take a look at some key injuries and see what the status are. We put out this initial video on Monday. The key concern we have is the Ravens' best receiver, Zay Flowers. And the update we have here, we're recording this Thursday evening, that he has not practiced all week. They say that he could still potentially play on Sunday, but we typically, if you don't practice, you don't play. And even if he were to play, how sharp would he be and the timing and all that? So that's a big concern. And now it's time for our game prediction. When we looked at this, our initial gut instinct was Buffalo. But when we look closer at the stats, especially the fact the Ravens' pass defense, their lone weakness, has gotten way better since Week 11. We're concerned with the Zay Flowers injury. We like the Ravens here 28-24. We think that defense is going to just kind of slow down Josh Allen. We think they're going to control the ball, run it with Lamar and Derrick, and then throw it to Mark Andrews and some of the underneath. The tight ends, get them involved in the game, so we like the Ravens here. And for our best bet, keep it simple. Just take the Baltimore -1 line. We are surprised that they are favored at Buffalo, being the road team, but we like the Ravens here -1.
That's all for this time. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to sharing our future videos with you.